because Nate has handled his social media very well for several years. And I know the group that is around him that does that for him, they do a top-flight job with him on that. It's very important.
No, I agree with you 100%. And, I mean, you say you learn things all the time. I said, I don't know if you remember us talking about this, but whenever we've had these Manziel discussions during the offseason here with some of these stories, I've said, this is already cause to learn from. I said a year from now, it's easy to see if the kid's growing into being a franchise quarterback. Next year, at this time, if we're having all these same stories, if he's doing the same stuff, then hey, then you can go, man, nothing's changed. But I got a funny feeling that it won't be the same. I'm not saying that he won't make the occasional tweet of a picture from time to time that people get stupid about, because some of that stuff was just so stupid. But I do think that he'll learn that it's not good form to put yourself out there every single weekend in a row, for several months, because you just open up sports talk. You open up the front office. You open up questioning from everybody. I guarantee you we'll see him approach his offseason differently next year. I have no doubt, because he learned, I think, a very valuable lesson. Not the lesson of don't do it. I'm not saying that, because he's free to do it. He's learned the lesson of not to necessarily invite the criticism. And it's hard when you're young not to stick your tongue out to the world and say, hey, man, kiss my ass, man. I'm young, I'm rich, and I'm doing what I want. But he's had to learn that just because you have the right to do something and the freedom to do something does not make it the best thing for you to do. And that's the hardest thing for anybody to learn. So I will say that, and I will give him credit. I thought we were going to have one more big blowout before camp came here, but he didn't. He laid really low key the last couple of weeks, and I like that, because hopefully that means he's getting ready to go to work, man, and him and Hoyer are going to have a battle, and I'm with it. Everybody wins if that's the case.
Yeah, no question about that. When you see the two of them, go all out for it, there's no negative side to that. If Cleveland Browns win, the fans win. We win because we get to talk about it on a positive level, Jerry, which yep. Is hard to do. Increasingly, these last few years. So certainly, we're giving, we're getting an opportunity for Cleveland fans to be happy about something. And I just want to shout out my favorite Cleveland fan, my foot surgeon, Dr. Naz, who kept me from losing a toe last week. And when we talked about Manziel in his office on Thursday, he said to me, if I had that kid's talent with my height, he's 6'7", he said, I'd forget about football. I'd have been playing basketball next to LeBron.
He
did play basketball for the Air Force Academy, so I think he understands a little bit about sports going back and forth. But he told me, Cleveland is a town, and him growing up there, I understand where it's coming from. And Cleveland is a town where there's not a lot of, it's not the same. It's a big city, but it's not the same as New York or Los Angeles or Chicago. Clevelanders have to fight for everything that they get positive, and I understand that. So he says, anytime we have a hero like this, like LeBron coming back or Johnny Manziel being drafted, we latch onto it in the hopes that, hey, we're going to ride it to the big show. And that's really what the fans are looking for from this kid. They want to ride the Browns to the big show.
I don't know, man. I can buy that argument with LeBron, but I cannot latch on to somebody that hasn't done it yet. Be happy for the hope, but don't latch on like he's a hero, because he's not yet. He could be perhaps in the future. I don't know. When people make that argument and they tie those two in together, I say, listen, man, just because LeBron is his agent does not mean that they are the same entity, because one is a proven entity who is year after year done his thing, made it to the top of his sport and what he does, and is one of the most celebrated athletes in the world. The other one only has the celebrated part and not all of the other things yet. I think that there is a complete difference between the two.
Very true.
And look at the difference. And I said this when LeBron James did not play here in Cleveland, when I did not like him, as I still don't like him. LeBron was public enemy number one. The one thing I always gave him was that he is very good, and I don't believe that it's just PR work. I just think he's, not the kind of person that does a lot of things that would draw negative attention, but you never hear his name attached to anything. He's not around people who do criminal things. You know what I mean? Like, he's never, you don't hear though. Everybody's got a story. So-and-so was around a guy who did this or was in a car. He's never even been in the car while a friend's been pulled over doing something, you know, like he's very good at staying clean. A lot of athletes don't do that. And that's again, and you see him. The one thing I'll say, the sticking your tongue out thing, LeBron's gotten better at that. And that's something that I think you'll see Manziel, he's learning now on the social media. LeBron used to be good at, look at me on the social media. Now everything's a lot more low key. The pictures are a lot more family based and a lot less of look what I've got and a lot more I'm a human trying to show that human side of him, which is smart public relations. And that's what I mean. That's the difference that comes with just growing older, regardless of who you are, whether I like you or not. And that's the smart PR that I would think hopefully could rub off on this kid.
Yeah, I think so. And I think 3 years down the road, we'll have a different opinion. Hopefully it's a positive one. And I think that's what, my man was talking about when he said, this is what Cleveland fans are hoping for. I don't think they want to put a crown on him and glorify him just yet. Meaning,
no, many do. Many do. Many want to put the crown on him.
Many do. Many do, but not all. I think the folks who are smart and who really understand what's going on here, as far as what rookies do in the league and what they're good at and what they excel at. They realize that the jury is still out, that the scales have not come to rest finally on the position where they will be. That's the big key. You want to see what he does after 16 whole games. You want, like you said, you want to see what he does next year in the off season. You want to see what his second training camp is like.
I got to tell you, I still get a kick. My favorite part of this offseason is how much people fall into media hype and just hype in general, because I think the biggest revelation that the media, and I mean locally and nationally, and fans, except for the completely delusional ones, the biggest revelation of this summer when it came to John Manziel was when people saw him and Hoyer play together for the first time and went, that dude we'd never heard of before is a better quarterback than the dude we keep talking about, and like it was a national revelation. I'm telling you, I watched the media narrative over the summer go from Manziel versus some guy we don't even know what his name is at quarterback. He's just going to walk in and own the job to, man, Johnny's going to be a backup for the foreseeable future until things change. And I'm like, wow, you guys attended a couple. It's funny because so many fans followed the media. They were like, yep, Brian Hoyer won't even be on the roster by the end of training camp, man. He won't even be on the team. And now everybody's like, man, I wonder if Johnny is going to be able to, do. And it's like, yeah, because you listen to the narrative like a bunch of sheep instead of seeing things for yourself. Right. I do believe that John Manziel has all the physical tools to be a franchise quarterback, with the exception of the height. But I'm not going to be the guy that says just because he's short he can't make it, but I will say that the only short ones that do make it are the exceptions to the rule and not the rule. So you are fighting uphill in hoping that he ends up being that guy, because like you said, 3 years from now, we could be sitting here going, man, can you believe we made all that fuss about that guy? You know what I mean? And can you believe the hype? Or we're going, man, he overlived the hype. He overexceeded the hype,
Well, we're already saying that about Brandon Whedon, aren't we?
I never knew what the hype was about then or now with Brandon Whedon, who is a hair away from being the starting quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys, man. I'm telling you, bro. America's team may not like football very much after watching Brandon Whedon after a while, man. That's all I'm saying.
I still have my contacts back east, and I know there was something said out of one of the Giants mini camps by one of the Giants defensive players about Brandon Whedon, and we'll see how that goes. I think what's funny about this is that the NFL is a game of second and third chances. And just like these guys, just like Whedon's getting a second chance, and all kinds of guys across the league get second chances. I think that Josh Gordon will see his second chance. The question is how long it will take him to get himself together. And Chris Carter was the one that said, he has to be completely cut. The ties have to be cut with him, based on his own personal experience. And that's one thing that Cleveland so far has not done. They are saying they are not going to release him. No matter what the ruling is from the league, he may be suspended and not able to play for however much time period, but they're not going to cut him loose for that, which I don't think is a bad thing. It depends on what again, we talked about this previously, Jerry. It depends on what the plan is for his rehabilitation and who's going to be involved with that.
Yeah, and where you started on with the beginning of that, talking about what the Giants were saying in the locker room, what they should be saying is that Brandon Whedon's the starting quarterback for the Cowboys. How many NFC East defensive backs are going to make the Pro Bowl this year? Because they're going to be looking there. So there's going to be some GMs are going to be forking over what years from now will be known as Brandon Whedon money. It'll be the Brandon Whedon curve, the year that every defensive back in the NFC East averaged double-digit interceptions. I'm just saying, man. They'll have to pay on the Brandon Whedon curve. Hey, speaking of, quickly, outside of Cleveland, speaking of defensive backs and quarterbacks and Peyton Manning, I want to bring up something that I saw earlier this week. I was really interested in on Pro Football Talk. It brought to light the fact that the NFL is going to be focusing a lot more, and you can tie it in to some politicking and complaining behind the scenes by Peyton Manning, one of the big popular quarterbacks and players in the NFL, but the really physical LOB, Legion of Boom style defense, where basically, of their own admission, what they decided to do last year was play prison rules. They said, you know what, if we hold on every play, then it can't be holding on every play, and they'll only call some of them. And we know they had that incredibly physical style, and one of the words going around is that's going to be one of the biggest crackdowns this year is on the defensive holding and pass interference, and really minimizing that advantage that teams like Seattle I guess you'd say smartly took advantage of, because they knew that the NFL was not going to want a 6-hour football game every Sunday. So they figure if we cheat on every play, they're only going to call it so many times a game. So we might as, basically they made holding and roughing up the receivers the norm. And it was well done on their part, because they were right. But, long time, about a decade ago, this similar thing happened with Peyton Manning and his receivers getting roughed up, and we saw the NFL buckle down on the defensive pass interference and those penalties, and I think we're about to see a similar thing again here. And a lot of people are crying, the league wants to see Peyton Manning win another Super Bowl. Very well may be true, but in general, what the league wants is offense. That's why all the rules have changed the way they did, and this is just another way of minimizing any advantage that these defenses look for.
Yeah, no question about that. And, you talk to anybody who does, private coaching, technique coaching for specific athletes, and they will tell you that's exactly what's going on. The league competition committee and the rules committee and the official supervisors are tweaking the rules every year. So much here, so much there. Let's add this penalty here. Let's make this situation an A instead of a B. So this goes on every year. We just don't realize it. We only talk about it once every 10 years, because that's when people who are supposed purists stand up and say, you're ruining the game. And we know that's not the case, Jerry, but people have to jump up and say it anyway.
But I'll tell you this is something to look for. In 2004, when the previous time that they cracked down on defensive pass interference, when a lot of complaints about the way the Patriots were playing with Manning and all of that, the penalties went from 79 defensive illegal contact fouls to nearly 200 the next year. They more than doubled. They went over and a half. They're 191 the next year. So the last time they cracked down, there was a significant increase, and I think that can only bode to a similar increase here coming up in the upcoming season.
Well, it's funny because you bring up what defensive backs complain about, And there were those complaints in 2004. There were those complaints in 2007. There were those complaints by the Giants receivers during the 2011 season. And so what happened? They called, they let him play in the championship games. And, there were a couple of calls there during that